Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
As much as we love stories about the decadence and crazy lifestyles of rock and rollers and blues artists and God knows what else, it's the music that came first. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I am the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brains about current projects, state of the industry, what's going on, what's going forward, all sorts of fun stuff. Very conversational, very light, very easy. And if you want to subscribe to this podcast, and we certainly hope that you do, I'd recommend you do that over at either Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or you can find every single episode of this show archived over at our YouTube channel. You can follow us on social media too for all sorts of fun updates, either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And finally, don't forget to join us over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, with all the latest and greatest movie news, reviews from all over the world, with festivals and new releases and video on demand and new DVDs and Blu-rays and all that kind of fun stuff. And you know, it's just one of those things because we love movies and we love talking about them. But on today's episode, we are we're talking with Joe Bonamassa. He's a guitarist, he's a singer, he's a songwriter, and they've just made a movie about him called Guitar Man, and it's a really interesting music doc because it's not looking for scandal. It's not looking for anything insidious or unsightly or, unfortunate, as it were, as these things happen in the music industry sometimes. But Joe has been pretty much on the straight and narrow and all about the music, and he is a hardworking guy who has worked his butt off to get to where he is. But he's an interesting guy, and we talked a little about his new film Guitar Man, which is available now on all VOD platforms and undoubtedly coming to DVD and or Blu-ray soon from our friends at Paramount Home Entertainment. And it was a really interesting talk, and we hope you enjoy it. All right. Well, obviously, Joe, thank you for the time today, man. I really appreciate this.
No problem.
I mean, first off, congratulations on the doc. I loved it, and I mean, I think the thing that stood out for me was that it's about the music. It's not about, who you dated or any sort of DUIs or any sort of rock star Michigas kind of thing that goes on. It's about the music. Walk me through sort of the initial pitch when someone said to you, hey, I want to make a documentary about the music.
Well, it kind of started very organically because we make DVDs pretty regularly. And there's a lot of B-roll in the
right.
process. It's like, so tell me what it means, like what's the ubiquitous, tell me what it means to make it to Carnegie Hall. And then you got to go practice, boom, there's your soundbite. But there's stuff that's left on the cutting room floor. And so we own all this footage, and my producer and a director named Philippe in Germany started, kind of pitching me the idea of doing like a documentary of my life. I'm like, well, there's like you said, there's no like story. There's no like, like he made it big, he had a huge hit, and then he got, like there was the scandals and the drugs and the, and then the fast lifestyle. There was none of that, Still's none of that. There won't ever be. All for that, But I missed my window of opportunity. And the thing is, we started just doing rough cuts. And the first time I saw the first rough cut of the movie, I didn't feel so good. And Kevin was like, well, don't you like it? I go, yeah, I love it, Kevin. And I'll tell you why, because it made me feel like I relived that part of my life. Because it was a struggle, like people look at me now, and I'm certainly not a household name, but they look at me now and they go, oh, it's like, well, you've been established for a long time and blah, blah, blah. But there was many, many years, almost 20 of them, that there was no guarantee that we would be in business year after year after year. I mean, it's like you can't even afford to tour in a van. Can't even afford to function on the most basic level in the music business because we really didn't have any help. We had to vertically integrate and do it ourselves. And that was and I think that's a great part of the story, is the fact that no matter what profession you're in, if you find yourself kind of like a little outside of the lane that doesn't quite fit into whatever industry you need to be, it's okay, because you can sometimes if you're not invited to the party, you can throw one yourself. And that's kind of been our that's been our rallying cry for a long time.
Well, and I mean, especially with your story, because you went from prodigy to basically net zero and then sort of built yourself up again. And it's one of those things that at least I love to see, because there is always sort of that gloss of the music industry of being all this flash and bang and overnight sensation and, pure talent, prodigy, yada, yada, yada. But you worked your ass off to get where you've gotten to. And that's kind of an important story to tell.
Nobody that I know, okay, is handed superstardom or any sort of success without working their asses off. And that applies to the highest level of pop stardom, stadium filling, whoever, down to the most troubadour-esque singer songwriter. Everybody's working their ass off. That's why like when people go, oh, I hate that artist, they suck, or they, it's like, oh, it's just disposable pop music made by, like, yeah, but that's somebody's dream right there, and that's somebody starting off in their bedroom, and somebody started off in their whatever, like they just started off in High School Musicals, and all of a sudden they're a pop star. Somebody, there's sweat equity involved in all of that. And it's to be respected, whether you're like, it's your cup of Earl Grey or not, doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the fact that you did put the work in, and because this business, it's like everybody wants in, only a few are able to flourish and survive. So it's not like for lack of trying.
Is that part of the fun for you too? Because I mean, on one end, while you're known obviously pretty well for sort of blues rock, you've never been afraid to sort of diversify and try to mix it up style wise and musically to try different things. For
Yeah.
you, is that sort of the thing that feeds your creative juices?
My favorite two things about my career: one, I can walk down the street and nobody knows who I am. Okay, except if I drive an old car, because my license plates have my name on it. Okay, and you get called out, Joe Bonamassa, nice car, thank you. But I can walk down the street and nobody notices who I am, and nor do I want them to. I'm just a member of society, ladies and gentlemen, but I can also sell tickets, and I love that, and my fans have been so generous to me where I can play a night of straight blues with horns, no problem, or I can get the stacks out again and do blues, the heaviest blues rock, and they're all about it. So, I'm not pinned to a hit. I'm not pinned to a certain catalog of songs that I have to play. I mean, there's a few that you need to get to, or else people like they start, they mutiny. Of course, yeah. But the bigger picture, I can take them on whatever journey that I want, and that's a great feeling. It's that freedom of you're not pinned to a box, and you're just like, it's like, do you just, because I know people that they just have to play the hits. There's a dozen hits. If they don't get to them, their fans are disappointed. Even they've played them for 35 years.
But I mean, it also does follow in the tradition of a lot of sort of those classic bluesmen who didn't necessarily want to be pinned in by the hits or want the celebrity. They wanted to play. They wanted to do the work.
Yeah, and a lot of the great, I call them like second generation blues, players and singers. Like we're talking about the B.B. Kings, Luther Allisons,
Yeah.
Albert Kings, and stuff like that. They weren't writers in the sense that like Robert Johnson wrote all of his songs.
Yeah.
Billy Dixon wrote a lot of those songs. They were great interpreters. So like, I put Frank Sinatra and B.B. King in the same lane.
Yeah.
They're great interpreters of song. Luther Allison the same way. It's like he wrote some great songs, but by and large, he was covering how blue can you get, but doing it in a different way. So the notion of the blues is so it's so different by who interprets it, that it still makes it interesting, even though you're just recycling the same changes over the last 75 or 80 years.
For sure. And I mean, especially with the blues, because it is such a storyteller driven music. And I mean, I'm just kind of curious, at the end of the day, just to put a bow on this, especially with this doc and sort of telling your story, like how important is it to be able to sort of not just have your story out there, but to be able to have the story of the blues out there, because really they kind of go side by side.
Well, by no means am I the spokesperson for the blues. Look at me. It's a terrible state of affairs. The important thing about this movie and my story is again, it's like if you can just I'm trying to find the right phrase. If you could just envision it, work hard at it, and go out there and not be afraid to fail, you can achieve it. And the thing about, I'm a blues based artist.
Yeah.
I'm not a blues artist in the sense that it's nothing but straight blues all the time. We've covered everybody from Yes to Genesis and Frank Zappa, because it's just fun.
Exactly.
And I'm an entertainer. It's like I always tell people, I'm not in the blues business, I'm not in the guitar business, I'm not in the the collecting business. I'm in the entertainment business. My whole thing is to entertain folks.
Well, and you know what? I think that's a good note to end on. And thank you again for the film, and thanks for letting the music entertain us and speak for itself. Keep up the good work, man.
I look forward to getting back to the Sony Center. I love that building.
It's a great venue, man. I'll be there when you are.
I'll tell you what, hopefully this vaccine, we start getting some light at the end of the tunnel, and we could start, opening it up again. It's just,
fingers and toes and everything else crossed.
yeah. And like the fact that, the fact that we can't go to Canada right now it tells you everything you need to know about what's happening.
Exactly.
Hell. Anyway,
cheers, brother. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
All right. Bye, guys. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.